welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hi, everybody. This is Evelyn Hershkowitz, Reader Service Librarian. I'm here on Turn the Page podcast with Kerri Maher. Kerri's written a new book called Summer of Love. It is wonderful. I absolutely loved it. It was such a good story. I just had to know what was happening. It comes out on July 7th, and we're going to talk to Kerri all about the new book. And I'm just going to give you a little biography about her. Kerri is the U.S. Today best-selling author of Summer of Love. All you have to do is call the Paris bookseller, The Girl in White Gloves, the Kennedy Debutante, and under the name Kerri Majors. This is not a writing manual, notes for the young writer in the real world. She holds an MFA from Columbia University and lives with her daughter and dog in a leafy suburb west of Boston, Mass. She was born and raised in California. So thank you, Kerri.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here to talk to
You're
you.
so very welcome. I absolutely love the book. It is historical and then it's current. It's got so much going on. I couldn't put it down. I just needed to know what was going to happen. And I don't want to give anything away, so I'll let you tell everybody what this wonderful Summer of Love is about.
I wish that I actually had a better elevator speech for this book. I like to say it's my California novel. I was born and raised in California. It's my California novel. It's a family secrets novel set in San Francisco and a Napa Valley winery. So there are three main characters who are narrating the story. In the historical timeline that begins in 1967, we have Winnie and Miranda. Winnie is an aspiring poet, and Miranda is running the family winery in Napa, which she kind of inherited from her father when he died when she was a child. And in the more contemporary storyline, which is taking place in 2015, storyline is narrated by Dawn, who is Miranda's daughter. And this is not a spoiler, we know this from the first page, Dawn is struggling with her own drinking habits. And she's terrified of telling her mother, Miranda, who is sort of like queen of this sort of famous female-led vineyard in Napa. And for work, she winds up reading first in this series of children's books called the Vineland series. And the Vineland series is by a famously anonymous writer. It would be like if Harry Potter had been written by an anonymous author. And she realizes when she's reading it that the author knows something about her home, and she doesn't know who that could possibly be. And so she goes on an adventure looking for the author of the Vineland series.
Right. And Miranda does not have a drinking problem.
No,
at all, even though she runs a winery.
Correct. For Miranda, wine is an art and a science. And she really, I don't know if your listeners who've ever gone wine tasting, you're supposed to spit it out. And if you do that, you won't get intoxicated. So, Miranda really takes that seriously. Like, she doesn't drink to become intoxicated. She drinks like to understand the terroir and how to improve the sort of properties of the bottle.
Yeah, all the characters were great. Loved them all. Loved the book. Loved that it took place at festivals. I guess back then they were festivals. You wouldn't really call them rock concerts.
Yeah, well, so the 1967 storyline opens in a famous concert that took place in Marin County in California called the Magic Mountain Festival. And it was the first of these like outdoor pop extravaganzas where there were many bands playing over several days. I mean,
before Woodstock.
Yeah, yes. So 2 years before Woodstock. So a lot of people, including me, I might add, until maybe 10 years ago, a lot of people think the term Summer of Love refers to 1969 because that was the summer of Woodstock and everything. But actually, it refers to 1967, and it specifically refers to everything that was happening in the San Francisco Bay Area, the famous Haight-Ashbury neighborhood of San Francisco, and the hippies and the war protests, and importantly, these amazing like music festivals that were happening. The Monterey Festival is much of 1967 is much more famous. That was the one that Jimi Hendrix
Hmm.
played at, and it was only 2 weeks after the Magic Mountain Festival. But Magic Mountain was first.
Must have done a lot of research to get all those details, huh?
Yeah, well, so this book was fun in part because so I grew up in California, like I said, and my parents also are native Californians, and they met at UC Berkeley as undergraduates in the 1960s. Okay, so I grew up with stories about this time and
Wow.
place. It was just encoded in my DNA. So in some ways, I had lived the research.
Hmm.
Not only did I grow up with my parents' stories, I went to UC Berkeley myself in the 90s, which really, in the scheme of things, wasn't that long after the 60s.
Hmm.
And the spirit of the 1960s in the Bay Area was still alive and well in Berkeley in the 90s. Peace signs, resistance posters, all of that good stuff. When it came time to do the actual historical research for this novel, I got to draw on a lot of lived experience, which was fun. But I obviously had to do some, factual research and quite a lot of fact checking to make sure that I had things right.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting. Are your parents still with us?
Oh, yes, they
So
are.
you were
They
able to
are.
just use them as
I
primary
did.
sources.
I did. They read a few drafts
Hmm.
and they gave me some feedback.
And what about the winery information? What did you know about that before you started?
Almost nothing about that. So
Okay.
so that was what I actually had to do the most research about was how does a winery work and like what is the history of winemaking in Napa and um, just some fun non-spoilery facts. There had been vineyards in California since the time of the original Spanish colonizers. And, they were making table wine, but also religious wine, to be served in Catholic, masses. And that kind of evolved into a real winemaking industry through the 19th century. The California became a state in the mid 19th century, and before that, it was part of Mexico. And so there were a lot of vineyards that were kind of changing hands from Spanish to Mexican hands, and then into the hands of sort of German and French and other settlers who were coming from the east. And then it all got kind of wiped out during Prohibition. Only a few wineries in that Napa Sonoma area that we think of as really the heart of the California wine country, even though California now has wineries all over the state.
Mhm.
But that kind of central area, a lot of those vines were pulled up and other types of crops were planted. A lot of flowering trees, fruit trees and nuts and things, which were when Prohibition ended, those were pulled up and vines were planted again. So
Mhm.
that was so interesting to me.
Yeah, well, the winery that we're talking about here, you said they had plums.
Yeah, that was a common thing to grow in Napa,
Hmm.
plums. I could have had my pick, right? It could have
Oh,
been
okay.
could have been peaches.
Okay, but you picked plums.
I picked plums. I'm not sure why. So I grew up in a very agricultural part of California, but not Napa. I grew up adjacent to Napa in the San Joaquin Valley, which does actually contain the Lodi wine country, which is very different from Napa. It's still a little bit more Wild West than
Mhm.
Napa. It's also much flatter. If you've ever had Zinfandel, it
Mhm.
probably comes from Napa. I mean, I'm sorry, it probably comes from Lodi.
Okay.
But the San Joaquin Valley grows everything. I grew up going to asparagus festivals
Oh, wow.
and picking strawberries and going to roadside peach stands and I was really spoiled growing up with the produce that I was able to have.
Yeah. And you don't live there anymore.
I don't, but I'm going to go back. My daughter's in high school.
Okay. And when she's done, that's it. You're picking up and moving back to California.
I'm lobbying for college in California. We'll
Oh,
see.
oh,
She's
that would be.
definitely an East Coast kid, but we'll
Oh,
see.
yeah, but oh my God, who wouldn't want to be in California? The weather and everything, especially after this winter.
Yes, it's true. This
This was,
was this was a tough winter.
yeah, this was a really tough winter. Not easy at all. I love the cover of the book. That's
I love
also
it
really
too.
nice. I
It just
mean,
glows.
yeah. Yeah, the cover's great with the bridge and the rocks and the water, and it's just beautiful. How long does it take you to write a book usually?
So this one took me 3 years, which was a little longer than my previous three. My first historical novel, which I was writing completely speculatively without a contract or anything, that took me longer. That took me 5 or 6 years. But the subsequent ones, The Girl in White Gloves, The Paris Bookseller, and All You Have to Do Is Call, they took between 18 months and 2 years.
Okay.
This one is very different from those novels in a few important ways. One is it has this more contemporary storyline. And so it's dual timeline,
Hmm.
which was pretty new for me. The Grace Kelly book had a little bit of a dual timeline, but both of them were still historical and they were much closer together. So there was that challenge, and I was juggling three narrators, and um, and all of the characters are fictional. It is definitely historical fiction because, like I said, the one timeline starts in the 60s and it does move forward in time and it meets ultimately with 2015.
Hmm.
But it stays historical. So that's the only link to history, whereas my other books were
Right.
either based on or loosely based on real people.
Sure.
All of these characters were
Right. I
fictional.
interviewed you for the last one based on what was the Jane
The
project,
Jane,
right?
yeah, the Jane Collective. But and
Yeah.
all of those characters were fictional, but I still had a lot more historical scaffolding for that book than this one.
Hmm. What did you do before you started writing books?
Well, I wrote my first unfinished novel in fifth grade. So, so
Okay.
I, but I can answer the question a different way, which is what have I done in addition to writing? Because
Okay.
very few writers make an actual living writing. So for decades, I taught. When I was in graduate school, I got a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, and I got some teaching experience then, which I used for many years. I taught as sort of a full-time lecturer at Fairleigh Dickinson
Oh,
in New
okay.
Jersey.
Sure.
And then when I got pregnant and had my daughter, for a bunch of different reasons, it didn't make sense for me to go back to teaching right away. We also moved, so I couldn't go back to the position I was in. That was when we moved up to Massachusetts with my then husband. And, calendar pages fall off the wall. Fast forward, I go back to teaching for a little while. I taught at Emerson here in the
Hmm.
Boston area, which was a terrific teaching experience. But for a bunch of reasons, I needed to pivot and do something else. And I am now working in the world of behavioral health, which I
Oh,
absolutely love.
okay.
I love that it's different from writing, and I love that I'm learning new things and meeting new people. I just absolutely love it.
And that kind of fits in with drinking and the drugs and everything in this book. You didn't have to really do much research if that's what you're doing right now, is
Um,
obviously helping people who are addicted.
yeah, well, I don't actually focus on people who are in recovery, although
Okay.
I am myself, I've been sober for 4.5 years, which
Oh,
is I'm
congratulations.
thank you. I'm very happy with. And actually quitting drinking was one of my first big moves into the world of kind of mental health. Like a lot of people who quit drinking immerse themselves in the world of like, why was I doing this in the first place? How does alcohol function in my nervous system? Like what's really going on here? So I that really helped me embark on a journey into the world of mental and behavioral health. There were other things that kind of moved me in that direction. There were some family things that came up, and just a lot of things were moving me in that direction. So I was already doing a lot of my own personal work in that arena. I've been in therapy my entire adult life, and I wound up getting certified as a parent coach.
Oh, what exactly does that mean?
So, well, it depends on the type of parent coach, but I help parents of kids who have complex mental health issues.
Oh,
So
wow.
I help them do things like learning to set firmer boundaries with their kids, like, adjusting technology in the house, helping them build a team of therapeutic professionals who can help both them and their children. There's a wide range of things that I can do.
Okay, that sounds like a great career.
It
Very
is. It's been
helpful,
really
well need,
fulfilling.
very well needed.
No kidding. Yeah.
So when do you have time to write?
So I now write very early in the morning.
Okay.
And so yeah, I just get up early and I just do it because as much as I love to write, if it doesn't happen first thing in the day, it's not going to happen at all.
Oh, wow.
I have a lot of writer friends for whom the same thing is true. Also, everyone is just, especially once you get to midlife, like me and most of my writing friends, it's we're done at the end of the day, like 5 or 6 o'clock, and we just want to be on the couch.
I would like to be on the couch at 5 or 6 o'clock also.
Yes,
And by 8 or 9,
exactly.
I like to be in bed reading.
Yes, I aim for 9, but it's rarely before 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you going on tour for this book?
I am. I'm
Oh,
doing
fun.
a couple of events in the Boston area where I live, and then I'm
Okay.
also going to do a handful of events out in California, which is
Oh,
super fun.
absolutely, because this will appeal to those people out in California.
I certainly
Absolutely.
hope so. So, and
Hmm.
I have family and friends in California, so I'll get to see them. Hopefully, they will bring their own friends. And I have great conversation partners lined up. There's a friend of mine named Jessica Goreri, who's a contemporary novelist who also she writes about contemporary motherhood and also, women who are struggling in different ways with substances and marriage and raising kids. And also Kim Fay, who wrote the Love and Saffron novel, which I just recently read, and it was absolutely terrific. It's all
That's the
set.
letters, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
kind of like the
It's like
correspondent.
correspondent.
Yes,
Yes.
but it
Mhm.
came out years before the
Right.
correspondent.
One of my coworkers, another librarian, after she read the correspondent, there's two of them.
Yes, that's right. I
She
haven't
was
read the
reading
second
both
one.
of them. Yeah.
Yep. I can't wait to read the next one. I'm a
Hmm.
big audiobook listener.
Okay.
So Lauren Allman, who narrated this book and narrated my previous two,
Okay.
The Paris Bookseller and All You Have to Do Is Call, she and I have really formed like a real creative relationship and friendship. And so we recorded like a fun little conversation between the two of us that's going to be at the end of the
Oh,
audiobook.
then I definitely have to listen to it. No doubt about it.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
great. She's
Okay.
terrific.
Audiobooks are one of my favorite things. They're just great.
They make it possible for me to do pleasure reading. I mean, I
Hmm.
really would not be able to do it otherwise. I'm a
Right.
very slow reader, and I don't have a lot of time to just sit with a book anyway. And
Right.
when I am sitting with a book, it's for work in some way. I'm either reading somebody else's novel to blurb it, or
Right.
I'm doing research.
What kind of books do you like to read when you do have the time?
Well, I do love historical fiction, but
Hmm.
I love contemporary fiction too. Like I really, like the Kim Fay love. Well, actually, Love and Saffron was historical.
Hmm.
It actually has a lot in common with this book. It's set in the 60s. Um, in order to answer this question, I always have to fire up my Libro FM or Libby account to just see
Right.
what I've been reading. Oh, I love Take Me With You by Stephen Rowley. He's one of my favorite contemporary
The
authors.
Guncle was
Gunkel.
fabulous.
Yes.
Fabulous,
Yes.
fabulous book.
Fabulous, fabulous. Have you spoken to him on this show?
I have not, no.
He's great, like absolutely great.
Hmm.
Um, I enjoyed Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. There's just been a lot of great books lately.
I'm listening to The Whistler right now by Anne
Oh, right.
Patchett. It's
Ann Patchett.
fabulous. I highly recommend that one.
Okay, all right. It's on my TBR.
Right, of course. It's got to be. She's fabulous.
Yeah.
Do you read your reviews?
So I do read the big trade reviews,
Okay.
and I want to thank the librarians out there. I got beautiful book list and library journal reviews.
Hmm.
So thank you.
Well, on your social media, you put down that Publishers Weekly said that I offer transportive descriptions of 1960s San Francisco and California wine country. It's a sympathetic portrait of a woman's search for fulfillment. And then you received positive from Library Journal and Book List, and you made the Southern Living list of 20 summer reads, which is fabulous. And
Thank you.
I have Library Journal here, and they said your latest novel is recommended for readers who enjoy big, messy family novels with strong women characters and a bit of nostalgia for the 1960s and 1970s. It's perfect beach reading.
I here.
Perfect beach reading.
Perfect beach reading, exactly.
I mean, it's not a rom-com,
Nope.
but
Nope.
it's
If you need a break from your steady
mhm,
diet of summer rom-coms, which I
right,
I totally understand. I like those too. This is a good one to fit in there.
right. Absolutely. It really is. It's absolutely perfect. It's amazing. So that'll be fun going back to California.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I go back a few times a year because I have family out there. My
Right.
parents and my brother are in Southern California now, even though I grew up in Northern
Oh,
California.
okay.
Um, I always bring my daughter. So my daughter is coming. It'll be sort of a little bit of a working vacation this time because I've got events, but
Hmm.
we're staying in some nice hotels
Oh,
and,
okay.
we're doing some fun things. Napa and that whole part of the state is so much more than the wineries. It
Okay.
is just absolutely beautiful there.
So are you working on anything right now?
I am. I'm working on a new novel, which I'm not saying very much about, but it's
Okay.
about a magical book of hours. And
Okay.
it's an epic love story. That is all I'm going to say about it at
Is
this
it
point.
magical realism?
It has a magical component.
Okay. Love that
Yes,
very
yes,
much. I do.
yes.
What kind of research are you doing for that?
Well, I've had to do a lot of research on books of hours. And for listeners who don't know what those are, they're medieval prayer books. Even people who don't think they know what a book of hours is have probably seen one. If you imagine, those beautiful books with the amazing, largely blue and white and gold illustrations with the calligraphy, they're like that. They're kind of a handheld version of that with prayers in them. Right. So the book has magical properties that for this couple that is on this love story journey.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds like something I would really love. Okay, so I just want to let everybody know Summer of Love will be available, obviously, as a print copy here in the library, and it'll also be available on Overdrive, Libby, but as an ebook and as an audiobook. So if you want, get your reserves in now, and then you'll have the book available for you once it comes out on July 7th.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're
This was
so
really
welcome.
fun.
Thank you, Kerri, so much. I mean, the book is great. I really enjoyed it. I'll be passing it on to all of my patrons that love historical fiction and the type of book that this is. It's just fabulous. Really
Thank you
loved
so
it.
much. Thank you,
Thank
Evelyn.
you. So I'm going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.